Heartwarming story, Black nurse saves Marine, fired within 24 hours, discover her life-changing. Maya rushed through the crowded hospital, her scrubs clinging to her, beads of sweat betraying her calm demeanor. At 35, she balanced nursing, motherhood, and caring for her grandmother as if those were cheery juggling balls. With 2 young children at home, she endured late shifts fueled by love and a fierce dedication to her patients. As she worked, her heart swelled for every soul she touched, but none could compare to the night she met Jake, a Marine forever altered by the horrors of war. The emergency room throbbed with urgency when Jake was brought in, a tangle of raw wounds and haunted eyes. Maya felt the familiar tightness in her chest, a rush of empathy pulling her closer. In moments, she was at his side, her voice steady as she assured him he was safe. "You're going to be okay," she whispered with a smile, desperate to bridge the chasm between his trauma and the gentle reality of care. Their eyes locked, and for that heart-stopping beat, she could see the flicker of hope rekindling in him. Through the long night, Maya worked tirelessly, refusing to let fatigue take hold. Each bandage she wrapped, each comforting word she spoke, bridged the gap between their experiences. It was more than just nursing, it was humanity. As dawn broke, Jake began to emerge from the shadow of panic, seeing Maya not just as a nurse but as a beacon of compassion. But just 24 hours later, an unexpected blow crashed into Maya's heart. She received an email as she sat at home, exhausted. Corporate restructuring, they called it. She was fired. The world felt unsteady beneath her feet. The weight of injustice crushed down, she felt it resound in her chest, a betrayal wrapped in the callous indifference of corporate red tape. Maya glanced at her children playing in the living room and her grandmother's frail figure resting nearby. Unable to fight the tears that welled up, she realized everything was slipping away. Yet, her community was her lifeline. Neighbors rallied around her, bringing meals, offering childcare, sharing whispered words of hope. They embraced her, the power of American resilience unfolding. Meanwhile, Jake wasn't about to stand by silently. He roared to action, fueled by indignation over what had happened to Maya. Together, they launched a mission not only for justice but for change. If they could tear down the walls that fostered injustice, perhaps they could illuminate a path of compassion in a dimming world. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, their journey was a maze filled with uncertainty and tension. How could they confront a world that favored profit over people? How could Maya reclaim her dignity and her dreams? Hope surged as her neighborhood became strong voices in a quest for justice. People they didn't know came forward to share stories of Maya's caring touch, amplifying their fight against a system that had long turned its back on the truth. As they stood before a panel, shadows of doubt filled the air. This was the moment everything could change. Maya took a deep breath, her heart pounding, knowing she bore the weight of her community's hopes in her slender shoulders. Just as she was about to speak, chaos erupted. A commotion broke out. What would this unforeseen event reveal? Would it help or hinder everything they had fought for? The air crackled with tension, leaving everyone on the brink of something great, something deeply transformative. The noise grew, drowning out Maya's thoughts. The panel had been tense, all heavy expressions and crossed arms. The room felt claustrophobic, the air thick with expectation. Just as she steadied her resolve, laughter erupted from the back. She turned, her heart sinking as a group of onlookers reorganized themselves to focus on the growing ruckus. A man young, dressed in casual streetwear had stood up, waving his arms and shouting. "This is ridiculous. You want to hear the truth? The system is broken." His voice boomed through the room, scattering the whispers like leaves caught in a gust. Jake watched, eyes wide, uncertain whether to encourage or rein him in. But there was something infectious about the man's energy, a raw truth spilling forth that sparked a connection with several audience members who nodded along. Maya blinked, thrown off the path she'd been carving. She hadn't anticipated this chaos. In the heart of it all, she felt the pressure building inside her chest again. She wanted to step forward, to take control, but the uncertainty of the moment left her anchored in place. Then came a voice from the side. She deserves a chance. Maya saved my brother. A woman stood up, tears in her eyes. He was one of those who got in trouble in the field, without her care who knows where he'd be. At that, the atmosphere shifted again. More voices rose in support. Tales poured forth from various corners, all echoing appreciation for Maya's compassion. Each story stitched stronger bonds of community, transforming the initial chaos into a powerful chorus demanding justice. Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks as realization struck. Their support was a wave, and she could surf it back to safety, reclaiming her voice in the process. She took a deep breath, letting the outpouring of gratitude wash over her. In that moment, it didn't matter what corporate suits decided behind closed doors. The power of her community embraced her, igniting hope as she recalled the Marine's journey from pain to healing. Thank you, she finally found her voice, steady and unwavering. But it's not just about me. It's about every caregiver who pours their heart into this work, and every patient who has ever faced a system that forgets them. She felt strength flooding her words, pushing through the noise. As she spoke, Jake felt pride swell in his chest. He had watched this remarkable woman navigate life's chaos with grace, and now, she stood as a fierce warrior for change. They were about to pave their path, but the shadows of doubt lingered at the edges, yet, uncertainty clung stubbornly to the air. Would they truly be able to dismantle the system that had wronged her? Would this moment inspire deeper changes, or would it fizzle out into fleeting noise? Then, from the back, another figure came into view, a well-dressed man in a crisp suit, members of the panel turning to regard him with curious stares. Deep lines marked his expensive suit, and a sharp gaze swept the room. He stepped forward, altering the energy entirely. "Excuse me," he said, holding up a hand, drawing every gaze. "I believe I can help unravel this situation." What did he intend to reveal? Would he be a voice for change or merely add to the noise? The tension tingled in the air again, each breath a whisper of anticipation. Maya's heart raced as the man in the suit stepped forward. There was something disarming about his cool demeanor, even amidst the storm of emotions swirling in the room. The chatter faded, eyes locked on him, a collective breath held in anticipation. "I'm Thomas Hale," he continued, a hint of authority in his tone. "And I've been following your case closely." He paused, scanning the faces in the crowd. "What if I told you I can help bring the changes you're fighting for? What if I can be an ally?" Whispers rippled through the audience, a mix of skepticism and hope. Maya felt a strange pull toward him. Was he genuine, or just a facade masking corporate interests? Jake's expression mirrored her uncertainty, eyebrows furrowed as he studied Thomas's every move. "There's a multifaceted approach that can be adopted," Thomas went on, his voice steady. "We need to confront the financial issues, the policies that inhibit progress. I can navigate through the channels and bring attention where it matters." Maya felt a flicker of something was at hope. Her instincts urged her to probe deeper. "And what's in it for you?" she challenged, unable to suppress the edge in her voice. A trickle of distrust colored the moment. "I see potential here," he replied, his eyes piercing hers with an intensity that caught her off guard. "You're inspiring, this community is mobilizing. The change doesn't only serve the individuals in need, it can reinvigorate the whole system. And those of us in positions of influence can't ignore it." A ripple of murmurs surged through the audience. She watched as the tide of emotions turned again, a mix of intrigue and caution. "But how will we know you won't turn your back?" A voice called from the edge of the crowd. Thomas didn't flinch. Because I've seen too many families suffer in silence. His vulnerability pierced through the corporate mask he wore, and suddenly, he felt human, a shared collective pain echoing back to every caregiver who had ever felt unheard. Maya's throat tightened. His words struck a chord, intertwining fear with a fragile hope. Could he possibly be an ally? I'm not asking you to trust me right away, he said, softening. I'm asking for the opportunity to show that dedication, that sincerity. Then, the murmurs transformed into a cacophony of voices reacting again. Maya watched the crowd, the faces around her, desperate for transformation. Would they embrace this unknown path, or were they too scared to venture into the uncertain? She felt torn, the weight of their expectations lay heavy on her shoulders. As the crowd erupted in conversation, an elderly man at the front raised his hand, capturing everyone's attention. There's nothing more powerful than our voices united, he encouraged. What do we want, Maya? Do we trust him? The question hung in the air like a pendulum about to swing either way. Maya locked eyes with Jake, searching for guidance. The future felt precarious, and yet, with every heartbeat, a possibility bloomed within her. I think we should hear him out, she said finally, steeling her voice. And as she spoke the words, she recognized the truth. To move forward, they had to embrace the risk. Thomas nodded appreciatively, but there was another flicker across his face, as if potential tension loomed within him too. Excellent choice. Let us gather everyone's thoughts and set a plan. But just as the discussion began, the door swung open again, and the previously hushed whispers turned into a rising roar as another figure strode in, a familiar face, one Maya never expected to see at such a juncture. Would this unexpected arrival shake the fragile foundation they had just started to build? What secrets lay behind that familiar smile? Would it be an opportunity or an unraveling? Maya's heart dropped as the crowd parted to reveal the newcomer. Kyle, her estranged brother, stood in the doorway, eyes wide with surprise. Their last encounter was clipped, filled with accusations and hurt. Maya had never expected to see him here, of all places, just when hope seemed to be reigniting. What are you doing here? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, yet loud enough for the crowd to hear. The sense of invasion tingled in her chest as tension thickened around them. Kyle shifted on his feet, his expression a mix of defiance and uncertainty. I heard about the meeting. I wanted to see for myself what you were doing. Thomas watched the exchange keenly, all the while shifting his stance, perhaps recognizing the potential disruption. The audience seemed to hold its breath, intrigued and wary. Could this be the ally you were searching for? His gaze suggested silently, probing. Maya didn't know how to respond. You don't belong here, Kyle. You walked away from this family. You chose your life over the people who needed you. The words hung in the air between them, weighted with history. Kyle flinched, anger flickering across his face. I made mistakes, but I'm trying to fix it. Can't we just start over? He stepped closer, voice earnest, yet a touch defensive. This is bigger than all of us, Maya. But it felt impossible. The crowd had begun to murmur again, caught up in her struggle with her past, while Thomas stood by, waiting patiently, eyes shifting between the siblings. Maya could feel the tension rippling outward, the audience hanging on to every word, every pause. Look, I believe in what you're doing. Kyle's voice softened, exposing the raw vulnerability she had seldom seen in him. Whatever happens with that guy, he nodded toward Thomas, we need to unite. I can help. I know things, people. A voice from the crowd, cutting through the haze, chimed in. What do you even know about helping, Kyle? The disbelief hung like a cloud, and Kyle squared his shoulders, raising his hands. More than you think. I may not have been there for the family, but those lessons I learned. They shaped me. My mistakes were my best teachers. Maya felt her heart twist. There was truth buried beneath the hurt that had kept them apart. But could she trust him now, with everything at stake? Is he really someone we want in our corner? Someone in the crowd asked, skepticism palpable. Maya caught Jake's eye, searching for his perspective. What did he see? The cogs in her mind turned. If Kyle had insights, wouldn't he that matter? If Thomas was a potential ally, could Kyle be an unexpected asset in their fight for change? I don't know what this all means, she said, finally addressing the group. The murmurs quieted down again. But the idea of banding together? It's worth considering, isn't it? United we stand. Glimmers of understanding flashed in the crowd, yet the uncertainty clung heavily. Was this the beginning of a new chapter or the unraveling of a delicate promise? Then Thomas cleared his throat. Perhaps we could explore this further. A coalition, blending experiences from every angle. We need all hands on deck for this. Maya felt a shiver of excitement at the potential, but it was overshadowed by the reality that Kyle's past still loomed. Could she balance hope against hurt? As the crowd buzzed back to life, using Kyle's arrival as fuel for plans, Maya realized something: their collective hopes and fears needed to coexist. The pressure of forging ahead was tangible. But would unity truly be their strength? Or would it ignite old conflicts that threatened their fragile bond? In that swirling uncertainty, Maya took a breath, preparing for whatever would come next. What secrets did Kyle carry? And how would they shape the course of this new alliance? Maya stared at Kyle, caught in the storm of emotions swirling around her. The crowd diverged between hope and skepticism, mirroring her inner conflict. She took a step closer, her heart pounding as his familiar features brought back memories she tried to bury. This isn't just about you, Kyle. People are looking to us, she said, her voice shaking but resolute. They want to believe, yet we can't afford to fail again. His expression softened, the walls he'd thrown up beginning to crack. I get it, he replied, his voice low. But what if I can help you see things differently? Sometimes, the outside perspective can break the cycle. The crowd was shifting, some faces showing intrigue while others maintained suspicion. Jake remained in the background, his frown conveying both support for Maya and concern about Kyle's intentions. The anxious energy in the room danced around them, electric and palpable, feeding the tension. Tell us how. What do you know that we don't? A voice from the left was sharp, demanding clarity. Eyes turned to Kyle, urging him to reveal something more than vague promises. That he hesitated, glancing at Maya. I spent years learning what not to do. I rubbed elbows with the wrong people and witnessed the worst outcomes. Let me put that knowledge to good use. A ripple of murmurs passed through the crowd. Maya could feel several eyes on her, searching for a cue. She glanced at Thomas, who raised an eyebrow, silently urging her to decide. Look, Maya said, trying to project strength, I don't know if we can trust you fully yet. But if you're serious about helping, then let us at least explore what that means. Relief washed over Kyle's face, a spark igniting within him. I can tap into the networks I once navigated. I can bring in resources we might need, information, allies. We could gather insights that could really fortify our cause. A few group members exchanged glances, their expressions softening. It was a cautious opening, but it felt monumental. That could make a difference, someone finally said, nodding slowly, encouraging the rest. Then let us outline a plan, Thomas suggested, stepping forward with authority. If we can put our grievances past us, channel that energy towards a common goal, we might just stand a chance. Both hopeful and wary glances crossed the room. Unity felt like a distant lighthouse in a turbulent sea. Maya's heart raced, a mix of excitement and uncertainty gnawed at her. Could Kyle really be the ally they needed? She took a deep breath, all too aware of the stakes. All right. Let us create a framework to work together. But I need a promise from you, Kyle. No lies, no holding back. We can only succeed if we're completely open. I promise, he replied, the conviction in his eyes making her dig deep for trust. The meeting began to pulse back to life, ideas bouncing off each other. Plans for the next steps flowed, layering both their past and present into something hopeful, yet, even as they spoke of plans and collaboration, a familiar niggle of doubt persisted in the back of her mind. Shadows still lingered from their fractured history. As the conversation turned towards logistics, Maya found her gaze shifting to the door. What if he gets caught up in those old networks? She thought, her mind racing with possibilities and unpredictability. For all the promise of a new alliance, she couldn't shake off the unease. What would happen when secrets, inevitably, began to surface? Could they withstand another betrayal? The room filled with energy, but for Maya, it all felt like walking on thin ice. Just beneath the surface lay the very real possibility of failure. The shadows of their past relationships could still shatter this fragile unity. Would they be able to navigate the treacherous waters ahead? Or would the weight of old wounds drag them back down? Her heart tight with uncertainty, Maya realized nothing was certain. Whatever came next could turn this into their brightest moment or their darkest night. Maya felt her heart pound in her chest as discussions swirled around her. Ideas flew, voices raised in passionate debate. She tried to focus, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Kyle. His promise hung in the air like a delicate thread, wavering between hope and skepticism. Can we trust him? She wondered silently, the question circling in her mind. Maya watched as Kyle leaned into the conversation, his energy infectious, but her gut still twisted with doubt. What if this was all just another cycle of disappointment waiting to unfold? Let us consider all angles, Thomas interjected, breaking her train of thought. He pointed towards a whiteboard, now filled with hastily written notes. We need a strategy that embraces both our past lessons and the new paths Kyle offers. The group fell silent, their eyes bouncing back and forth between Thomas and Kyle. Maya joined in, nodding as she absorbed the gravity of their next steps. Together, they could build something stronger, but only if they tempered their expectations. Kyle stepped forward, enthusiasm radiating from him. We should gather intel from my old contacts. They have insights we can use, information on our competitors, potential supporters, even the risks we're facing. Maya shifted uncomfortably. The thought of his old contacts made her stomach churn. And what to say they help? Or that you get drawn back into those old ways? This is different, Kyle urged, frustration creeping into his tone. I'm not that guy anymore. I'm here to forge a new path, with you all. You mean with us, or for us? Jake crossed his arms, stepping closer, his voice steady but laced with doubt. Kyle's shoulders tensed, and for a moment, the air thickened with tension. It's with you. I'm asking you to trust me. The weight of Jake's gaze bore down, and Maya felt 8 pairs of eyes flicker back to her, waiting for guidance. Her head spun with their uncertainty, the burden of leadership heavy on her shoulders. She needed to act decisively, or the fragile hope they had kindled might flicker out like a candle in the wind. Let us set some ground rules, Maya finally said, her voice firm. If we're going to move forward, transparency is key. No secrets. Everyone has to feel safe sharing concerns. Nods of agreement filled the room, and she felt a swell of relief at their unified resolve. We'll create checking points along the way, regular meetings to reassess our strategy and address any hiccups. No one gets left behind, and we'll adjust our plans as needed. Sounds good, Kyle replied, the hint of a smile breaking through the tension. As the group buzzed with renewed energy, Maya took a moment to breathe, to soak in the hope building around her. Maybe this was the chance they had longed for, a way to unite their collective strengths and work through their fears. Yet, as laughter bubbled up and conversations intertwined, a shadow crept back into her mind. The weight of unfinished histories loomed large, and her heart whispered warnings of the ghosts they were trying to escape. It felt fragile, this unity, as if it could crumble with the slightest misstep. Maya's gaze drifted back to Kyle. What if he couldn't escape those old ties? What if he, in a moment of weakness, turned back to betrayal? Determined, she clung to her own commitment to vigilance. Unity might bring strength, but trust would take time. As plans solidified for the following week, Maya felt the urgency to act. The light they had kindled could turn into a beacon or a bonfire to blaze out of control. But could they all remain steadfast in the face of baseless fears? just as she was about to voice her thoughts, the door swung open with a soft creak, jolting her from her musings. A chilling voice echoed from the threshold. Did I hear collaboration? It was Lucas, a ghost from the past she had hoped to never encounter again. Maya's heart sank. The tension in the room spiked, and she felt every eye turn toward her, brimming with doubt again. What did Lucas want? Would he shatter the tenuous bonds they'd just begun to weave? Her mind raced with the possibilities. Would this encounter be a turning point for their fragile alliance, or had they just opened a door to their past that they couldn't close again? Lucas stepped inside, the atmosphere crackling with unwelcome energy. His presence felt like an intrusion, a ghost from a past Maya wished to forget. The murmurs of her friends faded into a tense silence, each person holding their breath as if waiting for a dam to break. Maya, Lucas said, his voice smooth but laced with a challenge. It's been a long time. He leaned on the door frame, arms crossed, confidence radiating off him like heat from asphalt. Too long, Maya replied, her tone steely, trying to regain control of the moment. Everyone here seems to think you're on the right path, Lucas continued, glancing around the room. But really, you're just ignoring the truth. You know that, don't you? A knot tightened in Maya's stomach. She could see the doubt creeping into her friend's eyes. Lucas always had a way of undermining her confidence, of shifting the focus from their goals to the churning shadows of their past. So, what insight do you offer? Jake retorted, stepping forward, all bravado. Nothing but old tricks, right? Lucas shrugged, unfazed. Call it what you want. But I have connections and information. If Maya is reckless enough to forge ahead without acknowledging the past, she might just ruin everything you all built. Kyle tensed beside Maya, his fists clenched. And what makes you think you can waltz in here and give orders? You're not part of this. For a moment, the room felt stuck, a stillness heavy with uncertainty. Maya took a breath, grounding herself in the moment. We appreciate your input, Lucas, but we're moving forward. We've made our commitment. Lucas stepped closer, his voice dropping. You really think you can trust him? His promises? And what about your own? His gaze locked onto Maya, as if searching for cracks in her armor. Maya's heart raced, the implications of his suggestions echoing in her mind. Was she betraying her own values by trusting Kyle? Or was she letting fear dictate her choices? The stakes felt higher than ever. Enough, she declared, louder than she intended. This isn't about trust in one person. It's about the collective we're building. We decide our direction together. The group shifted slightly, a ripple of relief mixed with apprehension at her decisive tone. Lucas's smirk faded. Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you when it all comes crashing down. With a final glance that pierced through the room's newfound tension, he turned and strode toward the door, leaving behind an unsettling silence. Maya felt a wave of fatigue wash over her. The echoes of Lucas's challenge lingered in the air, haunting every corner of her mind. She couldn't deny the stark reminder of their shared history. How much of what was said held truth? Don't let him get to you, Kyle said, his voice low, yet firm. We've come too far. But Maya wasn't so sure. Trust was a currency they were still navigating, fragile in its infancy. She had already taken a step into uncertainty. Lucas' presence was just the gust of wind that could blow it all away. Let us get back to our plans, Maya said, trying to shake the unease. But the apprehension was palpable, her friend's eyes still clouded by doubt. What had begun as a moment of promise now felt like a tightrope walk across a chasm of confusion. Maya realized that they not only needed to confront the obstacles ahead, but also the ones rooted deeply in the past. As she glanced around the room, seeing the flickering flame of resolve mixed with fear in everyone's eyes, a thought struck her like lightning. Would they be brave enough to face both the external and internal battles together? The uncertainty loomed large, but for now, they had to find their footing. What would it take to quell the shadows of their past before they could rise? Just then, her phone buzzed insistently in her pocket, cutting through the tense air. With a racing heart, she pulled it out, her eyes widening at the message on the screen. "We need to meet. It's urgent." Maya looked up, her mind racing. Was this news a lifeline or a trap? The path was muddled ahead, but she understood one vital truth. The journey was just beginning, and every decision could lead to either salvation or downfall. Would she have the courage to face what awaited her? Maya took a deep breath, her heart pounding like a drum against her chest. The urgency in the message felt like a call to arms, but she wasn't sure if she was ready to answer. The room felt smaller, the air thicker, as attention settled back in. Her friends exchanged glances, each one asking a question with their eyes. Should we trust her instincts? "Who is it?" Kyle asked, breaking the silence. Maya hesitated, glancing at the message again, waiting for it to reveal some deeper meaning. It was from a community leader she had worked with before, a person whose opinion she valued immensely. "It's Jessica. She says it's urgent." "Is that the same Jessica?" Jake asked, his brow furrowing. "The one who helped organize that big outreach last summer?" "Yeah, that's her. We have a history." Maya's voice faltered slightly, memories flooding back. Jessica had always been someone who fought for the underdog, even when it cost her dearly. "Then let us go. We can't ignore something like this," Kyle urged, already moving toward the door. Maya's stomach twisted. Part of her wanted the safety of staying where they were, holding on to the fragile threads that connected them. But the other part understood that some doors needed to be opened, no matter how daunting they looked. "Sure," she finally said, steeling herself. The resolve in her voice surprised even her. She wasn't just stepping into a new conversation, she was stepping into the unknown, and that felt big. "Let us go meet her." As they stepped outside, the warm glow of the setting sun gave way to a cooler breeze. The world felt different, charged with possibility and anxiety wrapped tightly together. They walked down the street side by side, each of them lost in their thoughts. But as they closed in on the cafe where Jessica had asked to meet, an unease crept in. Maya's mind raced with questions. What could be so urgent? Was it about Lucas? Had he set something in motion that would threaten their progress? As they approached the cafe, the dim light glowing from inside appeared warm, inviting. Yet, to Maya, it felt like a spotlight illuminating her fears. The cafe door swung open, and Jessica stepped out. Her expression was grave, drawing immediate concern from Maya. "Maya!" she called, waving her hands for them to hurry. "We need to talk. It's about the initiative. Things have changed." "What do you mean?" Maya's pulse quickened. "Inside. Now," Jessica urged. As they entered the cafe, the smell of freshly brewed coffee wrapped around them, but the atmosphere was thick with tension. They settled into a corner booth, Jessica directly across from Maya, shaking her head as if summoning the right words. "The district has pulled funding. They're shutting us down." Jessica's voice shook lightly, but her eyes burned with determination. "We need a plan, fast. If we don't act, everything we've built could collapse." Maya's heart sank. The news felt like a punch to the gut. How could they do this? We were really making headway. They don't see the value in it. They've shifted focus to projects with bigger names, bigger budgets. "It's politics, we can't let that happen," Jake interrupted, his tone an edge above the rest. "We've worked too hard for this." Maya nodded, anger rising within her. The walls they had been building against doubt were suddenly crumbling. Trust in their mission was sacred, yet now it felt threatened by unseen forces. "Is there any way to appeal?" Kyle asked, his voice quieter now, almost uncertain. Jessica's expression tightened. "We can try. But the timeline is tight. We need to act before the end of the week." Maya felt her heart heavy in her chest. She had just won a small victory against Lucas, and now it seemed the battle was far from over. But I don't even know where to start. Her voice trailed off, the weight of the moment sinking in. Together, Jessica said, locking eyes with her. We face this together. We can leverage the community, rally support. She paused, capturing Maya's gaze. But we have to act now. Taking a deep breath, Maya felt the flicker of determination rekindling. Could they really do this? Face another obstacle? The shadows of doubt poured in, but alongside it flickered the light of hope. We'll come up with something, Maya said firmly. What she didn't expect was to find the strength to fight back, to unite again with her cause. We have to. As ideas began to swirl around the table, she felt the little sparks of resolve igniting within each of them. But in the back of her mind, the question loomed large. Would they have enough time to turn things around? Maya wasn't sure, but as she looked at her friends, their faces set with determination, she realized they were at the brink of something monumental. Could they rise against the odds once more? There was a silence before the storm, a moment's hesitation that slipped by as flashes of determination painted their faces. But as thoughts turned to strategy and hope ignited, another unexpected text buzzed on Maya's phone, interrupting the moment once more. It read, "You're not done yet. The shadows are deep. Trust no one." Maya's heart raced. Whatever this was, it was far from over. Would they find a way to overcome together, or would the past come crashing down again? Maya stared at the screen, the words blurring together as panic threatened to choke her. What does this mean? Who sent this? She could feel the tension in the cafe rise again, her friends leaning closer to read over her shoulder. Whoever it is, they're trying to intimidate you, Jessica said, her voice steady despite the uncertainty that loomed around them. But this is about us trying to save our initiative. We can't let distractions pull us apart. Right. Kyle chimed in, his voice rising above the table's anxious atmosphere. We can't waste time worrying about shadows when we need to plan how to save what we've built. Maya took a deep breath, forcing herself to focus. She turned her phone face down, trying to dismiss the unnerving message that echoed in her mind. Okay, let us figure this out. What's the first step? Jessica leaned forward, her eyes fiery with resolve. We need to hit the ground running. Rally the community. Reach out to everyone. We have supporters, people who believe in what we're doing. Her voice quivered with each word, a battle cry charged with passion. Jake nodded, excitement sparking in his eyes. What about social media? We can launch a campaign to draw attention to the initiative. Show them the impact we've had. Maya felt a tingle of hope, a current of strength flowing through her. Yes. We can share success stories, testimonials, and real data that show our progress. If we can get the community talking, they'll see how vital this program is. Let us create a schedule, Kyle suggested as he pulled out his notebook, scribbling notes. We should go door to door if we need to. Talk to people directly, get them fired up. As the ideas began to blossom and take shape, Maya's heart started to settle in her chest. It felt so right to fight for what mattered. She could see their faces, the kids who relied on their program, the families who had transformed because of it. That was worth fighting for, but even as determination filled the room, a little voice nagged in the back of Maya's mind. The text she received. Trust no one. What did that mean? Could it be some threat connected to Lucas? Was he pulling strings behind the scenes? Can we also look into what is going on behind the scenes? She asked cautiously, her brow furrowing. If they're willing to cut funding this drastically, we might need to dig deeper. Good point, Jessica agreed, her voice resolute again. We can find out who's behind the decision. They might be swayed personally if we appeal to them. I have some contacts I could reach out to. Maya nodded, her spirit lifting with every collaborative thought. Let us utilize every resource we have. We can do this together. The more they talked, the more like a team they felt, fueled by their shared anger and unstoppable hope. They moved methodically, each step pulling them closer to a plan that could save the initiative. Yet, lurking beneath the surface was still that feeling that something wasn't right. As the evening wore on, their voices filled the cafe, bouncing off the walls like bright sparks flying from a fire. Still, with every laugh shared and strategy planned, Maya couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. When they finally wrapped up their meeting, a sense of unity settled within her. She felt lighter, buoyed by the collective determination of her friends. But as they stepped outside, the chill in the night air made the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. "Maya," Jessica said, pulling her aside as the others walked ahead. "You sure you're okay? You seem a bit off." "I'm fine," Maya answered, perhaps too quickly. She forced a smile, yet the unease gnawed at her. "I just want to make sure we do this right. We can't fail now." Jessica studied her closely. "Just keep your head up. Whatever happens, we're in this together." As they walked down the street, the winding path lit by flickering streetlights, a sudden sound caught Maya's attention, a low rumble, too close for comfort. She glanced back, and her stomach dropped. A shadow crossed the intersection. Unmistakable. A familiar face. "Lucas," she whispered, heart racing all over again, with fear and determination intertwined in her soul. Maya realized they weren't just facing a community issue, they were standing against an enemy they thought was behind them. Would they have to prepare for an entirely different kind of battle? Maya stood frozen as Lucas approached, his presence heavy with unspoken words and hidden agendas. The uncertainty gripped her like a vice, and her heart pounded in her chest. She could feel Jake, Kyle, and Jessica hovering nearby like a protective barrier, but the confrontation loomed like a thundercloud ready to burst. "Thought you could simply move on, didn't you?" Lucas's smirk was infuriating, confidence drenched in accusation. "Enough," Maya said, her voice shaking but determined. "We're fighting for something bigger than you, Lucas. This is about our community." He chuckled softly, a sound devoid of warmth. "And what makes you think this community cares about your fight? They'll turn on each other as soon as the winds change. You don't know them like I do." Maya bit back the anger rising in her throat. She remembered each face, each moment where they rallied around her, where they chose love and resilience over division. "You're wrong. We've built connections. We've earned their trust." "Trust?" Lucas raised an eyebrow, a sneer curling his lips. "And what happens when you fail? When your brother, the one standing there, shows his true colors again? What then?" Maya's breath hitched. Kyle's past slithered back into focus. The nagging doubt she had worked so hard to suppress crept back into her mind. But she shook her head, she wouldn't let fear dictate her fight. "This isn't just about our past, it's our future we're fighting for." As she spoke, her friends stepped forward, solidarity shimmering in their eyes. "That's right," Jake chimed in, his voice rising with passion. "We're not afraid of you. We're ready to stand together." Lucas glanced at them, a glimmer of uncertainty flashing across his face. "You really think this dream of change matters to anyone outside this group?" "It matters to us," Kyle shouted, his voice fierce enough to silence the lingering doubts. "We've come too far to let old ghosts haunt us." Maya felt the momentum shifting, a wave of confidence surging through her. The support of her friends ignited a fire within her. "And whatever happens, we'll face it together. You don't scare us, Lucas." "Is that so?" Lucas stepped closer, his eyes narrowing, but something flickered in the air, a kind of pleading, perhaps he was searching for a spark of genuine connection. Just then, Jessica jumped in. "Listen, it's time to step back, Lucas. We're not interested in your games. We recognize our worth, and we won't let anyone undermine us." For a moment, the silence stretched thin, filled with tension and the crackle of potential. Maya stood shoulder to shoulder with her friends, feeling fortified by their presence. This was it, this was their moment to reclaim their narrative. "Fine," Lucas finally retreated, hands up in mock surrender. But remember, you won't be able to keep running from the past forever. He turned to leave, but not before throwing one last warning glance over his shoulder. Maya turned to her friends, a collective sigh escaping their lips. "What now?" Kyle asked, his brow furrowed. "We keep moving forward," Maya declared, the weight on her shoulders feeling lighter. "Lucas is right about one thing, we need to address our past for all of us. But we owe it to ourselves to fight for what we believe in." Plans crystallized that evening, each detail a stepping stone toward their brighter future. Maya felt a sense of purpose she hadn't felt for a long time, the collective energy spinning into action. In the days that followed, they gathered support. Phone calls were made, flyers distributed, the community came alive. People showed up, uniting in a shared vision for change. Testimonials flowed, heartfelt stories transforming into a thunderous echo for justice. And then, as they prepared to stand before the council again, this time with renewed spirit, a familiar face appeared among the crowd. It was Jake's brother. Maya felt her heart leap, the connections she made were deeper than she realized. As the day they presented their case approached, the anticipation buzzed in the air like electricity. They had gathered stories, community backing, and a mission fueled by the right kind of fervor. Standing at the podium, Maya exhaled, her heart full of gratitude. The room was packed with supporters, eyes fixed on her as she spoke. "Today, we light the path to change. We honor our struggles, our victories, and most importantly, each other." Voices roared in agreement, echoes of determination blending into a collective heartbeat. And at that moment, Maya knew this was only the beginning. They toppled obstacles and broken barriers. Together, they transformed fear into a force of hope, reclaiming their community and rebuilding the trust that had sustained them all along. In the days that followed, Maya's heart swelled with joy, renewed friendships, passion ignited for justice, the light of compassion leading the way. Together, Maya whispered, her voice an echo of the promise they had forged. As the sun set on a new chapter, she remembered, community, strength, and daring to rise above had always, and would always, be their greatest assets. Now was the moment of realization. This wasn't just about her or her family, it was about everyone coming together, sparking change, and real healing. This was their victory. Now, dear viewers, it's your moment to act. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this positivity flowing. Comment your feelings about this inspiring conclusion, you're part of this journey too, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. If you're a true fan, show your support.